What is up, everyone? I am I'm not Jorge Edwards. Jorge can't be with us tonight. I'm Nate Markham. This is Behind the Frames. We are, you know what? We're live. Todd, we are live right now with everybody. And with me tonight are three of my favorite people in the world. Aaron Pags, Fantasy Triage. How you doing, man?
It's a beautiful night to say fantasy football live's live.
Todd Barnes, again, we're live. How you doing, man?
We are live, and I'm not muted, right?
You are unmuted. And okay. With us is our second favorite David, David Ibrahim from Fantasy Go NFL. How you doing, buddy?
Not too bad. 2 out of 2 ain't bad. Second position out of 2, so I'll take it.
Yeah, silver. Silver's not bad.
I was just waiting for Nate's favorite 3 people to get here. What do they like?
They're probably going to be commenting shortly. But we got a great show tonight, guys. I mean, we're going to dive in a little bit about some of the news happening, and we're going to discuss the AFC North. Let's jump right in. Some relevant news, if you ask me, is this is hamstring and hope season right now. This is the time when everybody's looking great. And there's some injuries. And relevant right now is Davante Adams. You guys see that? He left today with an apparent leg injury. Any updated news, David?
No, I didn't see any updated news. I believe he was good by the end of the training session anyway. I'm not worried. We're still a month away. It's obviously not serious enough that they took him out of training, so he'll be fine. It's a stage of the season where they're just looking for anything to be news.
Exactly. And that's a big one. Don't get me wrong. Davante Adams is about as big a name as we've seen. But there's another name out there that might have more relevancy because one Doug Peterson says he is week to week Miles Sanders. All right, guys. Is that posturing from Peterson? Or
everyone's week to week right now. I mean, we are weeks to week away. Hoping, weeks away. I mean, I don't even know if that is like the most irrelevant statement that Peterson could possibly make on a player. I mean, they're all week to week. Like next week, any one of these guys could not be playing.
I am week to week right now, just so you guys know. Keep me in your thoughts and prayers. We hope that we can continue on. In addition to that, I think most importantly, because I have a hefty amount of shares of them, is Nick Chubb went down with concussion protocol. What does that mean, Todd?
Concussions are another thing. Everyone deals with them differently. I mean, you see players that have head trauma and they're never the same again. Concussions always are something that kind of scare me. But then again, like we just said, we're weeks away. I mean, he's still young, so I'm not too worried about it, but still, I mean, it's a concussion. They're serious.
How hard are these guys getting hit in Browns camp already? I mean,
dude, he got tackled by his neck and went down, and then karma struck, and of course, then now there's a leg injury and the tit for tat. Aaron, I have a question for you though. If Chubb, let's say he has a recurrence or he's out longer than we think, concussions, like you said, Todd, can go from person to person, player to player.
Shep's a good example.
Yeah, it is. It's a great example. And how high does Kareem Hunt jump up your list, your ADP, if Chubb is out?
That's a good segue into running backs here in the AFC North. Kareem Hunt, we'll talk about the last one of the relevant running back. Oh, maybe the second to last one of the relevant running backs to go in this division. Kareem Hunt's going in the 7th round currently, which I think is super fair with both of them on the field. I think he can return top 25 running back value for sure in a PPR, half PPR where we're at. He's maybe creeping into that 20 to 25 range, but you don't have to pay for like a top 25 running back that's going in the first 5 rounds. Mm-hmm. So going around the guys like Ronald Jones and Cam Akers, whose situation is not clear. Hunt's situation is super clear. He's going to get, like with Nick Chubb even if Nick Chubb's on the field, he's still going to get the ball, 60 times on the ground, 60 times in the air throughout the season. Somewhere around 700 yards and 6 or 7 touchdowns. I mean, this guy's going to score fantasy points for you. And 7th round price is really fair when you compare him to his counterpart Chubb, who now has maybe a little bit of concussion concerns. Last year, Chubb weeks 1 through 9 was the 6th highest scoring PPR back, 5.2 yards per carry and getting 4 targets per game. When Hunt showed up after his lengthy suspension, his yards per carry were still elite. I mean, 4.8 yards per carry afterwards. So that we know Nick Chubb can run the ball. We know that he's going to get the carries. If he's on the field for 16 games, it's 300 carries. He's a really safe bet to be like the 10th best running back in half PPR leagues. Like, he's super safe there. For me, that's not enough to take him where he's going at the end of round 1 or 2. I can probably find somebody who's going to sneak in to the top 10, a Chris Carson or whoever, like a little bit later on, and I don't have to invest that, early second round, that turn pick. There's just I don't see the upside. There's no receiving upside, and we know what he can do on the ground. So 300 carries is going to give you, like running back 9. Numbers or somewhere around there.
If there was no Hunt there, would you say that Chubb would be would he? I think he would fight with Zeke. Is that unfair to think that he would be as high as 3? I mean, you add Jack Conklin, who is, the 9th best tackle addition to that team. You throw in an offense that's going to be run heavy already. I mean, he's got to be. He would have been top 5, but this is all hype. It's
all hypothetical. It's all hypothetical because the both of these players have their roles, and neither one of them steal from the other. Kareem Hunt's not stealing any goal line carries, and Nick Chubb is not stealing any targets. So these are 2 guys you can draft without having to worry about someone sneaking.
I'm more excited about, rather than Kareem Hunt's upside, I'm more excited about Nick Chubb falling to potentially the middle of the second round if you're doing your drafts right now. If I can pair him with a Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams, who we just mentioned, or someone, I'm very happy with that. I'll tell you why. I mean, last year, and my apologies, I don't have the running back stats. I did the wide receivers today, but he was the second most rushing attempts last year, right?
Yes.
Chubb?
Yes.
And I believe 3rd or 4th most yards per carry, something in that vicinity.
Top 3, yep.
Kareem Hunt had about 380 yards rushing and 200 receiving, something in that vicinity in 8 games, and I think 3 touchdowns, right? Yeah, anyone have those stats in front of me?
You're exactly right about there. Yeah.
Why are we getting excited about 600 scrimmage yards and 3 touchdowns? Everyone's talking about Kareem Hunt like he's going to fight Nick Chubb. Like, no, in 8 games, he had the opportunity to take over the lead role. And we've seen every team plays the hot hand approach, whether you like it or not. If there's a running back which outperforms the other one, they will put them in. Nick Chubb was still the 2nd most rushing attempts, which goes to show me the Browns believe in Nick Chubb, and he is their workhorse. So, look, if I can get Chubb now in the middle of the second round, if I'm doing my draft this weekend or in the next few days, I'll take that all day long.
Yeah, Todd, you watched him crush Auburn consistently, right?
I did, actually.
I
did, actually.
Exactly.
Some bad moments. But I do kind of want to mention Kareem Hunt came back week 10. He outscored Nick Chubb 6 to 8 weeks. Nick Chubb out-touched him 155 to 80 in that time frame, and that's PPR. So that's something to consider. I mean, who knows? This is a backfield that I'm really watching early on in the season.
If you're getting a full or a half point, Kareem Hunt is definitely a viable back where he's going in the 7th round. But if you are playing in a standard league, he's not an option, obviously. And he's not going to threaten Nick Chubb. He's not going to be, like David's saying, he's not going to be the guy who gets 22 carries. It's just not happening. So
no, Nick Chubb may be the best pure runner in the NFL.
Absolutely.
I don't disagree. Who's going right next to him is Joe Mixon. Aaron, what?
Yeah, I was going to say, let's compare him to another true number 1 back with absolutely no competition, except Joe Mixon's offensive line stinks. It's like the worst. It's so bad. Yeah. Last year he was hit like first contact with a defender after just 1.8 yards past the line of scrimmage. That was like just horrific. 60% of his yards last year, which he did still have over 1,000 yards from scrimmage, but 60% of his yards were basically on his own doing, like his own yards created. He had no help from his offensive line, which that scares me, right? That doesn't say safe with my 1st round pick, my running back 1. I mean, there's two schools of thought here on Joe Mixon.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only guy in town, but the townspeople aren't going to help him get to where you need him to go. So again, similar to Nick Chubb, he's probably a pretty safe 10th or 11th scoring back in most formats, pretty much all formats. But can he crack the top 5? Can Chubb crack the top 5? I don't think either one of those guys can crack the top 5 running backs. David, do you think either one of those guys can be a top 5 back this year?
I'm not buying the Joe Mixon hype. And Jorge, if you're listening, I do apologize. I know you're a big Mixon believer, but in the first 8 games, he averaged 40 yards a game, 40 yards rushing, my apologies, right? And 0 touchdowns in those first 8 games. Let me add that, albeit a bad offensive line, but they didn't make any monumental changes. I understand they improved it slightly, but they're not exactly going to be a top 10 offensive line right now. I understand they fed him at the end of the year a lot, but we've now got Joe Burrow there, so he's going to be rushing a bit. He's got, assuming a healthy AJ Green, Tyler Boyd. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot more. It's not going to be the Joe Mixon show like it was at the end of last year. That price tag of a late first rounder, like you said, if I can get a Chris Carson, you mentioned his name before, I think Chris Carson's going to put up similar numbers, and you don't have to invest a late first round pick. So I'm avoiding Joe Mixon, not because of the talent, just because of the price tag.
Yeah, the price tag is heavy. Now, there's a particular running back in Pittsburgh whose price tag is not heavy, and that is Mr. James Conner. Aaron, here's a hypothetical for you. If James Conner were to play 16 games, how high would he be overall at the end of the season?
He's a top 10 running back. No, hands down, 16 games. James Conner finishes in the top 10 in all scoring formats. That is that's not even a doubt in my mind. He's done it already. He only played 13 weeks in 2018, and he was running back 8. I mean, we know what this guy can do. He's going around guys like Devin Singletary, Melvin Gordon now. I mean, again, when we're talking about drafting running backs who aren't McCaffrey, Barkley, Kamara, Zeke, we want to try to find a guy. If you want him to be your running back 1, we got to find a guy who can get up anywhere near those guys in fantasy points. And at this stage of your draft, in the 3rd round, late 3rd round, early 4th round, there's no one like James Conner's upside. No one even close. And so put him back in that offense. The offensive line is amazing, of course. Roethlisberger's back. I don't know whether he can throw the ball at all. Maybe he'll start throwing left-handed, whatever, as long as he's on the field, right? James Conner in that offense has the potential to be a top 5 running back. And if he just plays all 16 games, his floor is probably running back 12.
Right. No, I think that's right. I mean, you look at this team from last year, near the bottom in about every offensive statistical category. It doesn't hurt when you have, Duck and Mason chucking the ball around in a bunch to nothing. I mean, the upside's there, but that's baked into his ADP. One of the things that is also concerning is this entire running back group after that is anybody able to, as far as the second backs go? Oh, Jake, look at you, David.
Todd,
you have a fan and a friend.
Not that bold.
But that's true. You know what? Mixon, I think, is as polarizing a figure as there is in the AFC
in the
North.
First round, for sure, too, right? In the first round, who's more polarizing than Joe Mixon? But anyway, who is more boring in this division? The most boring possible pick here is Mark Ingram. And you know what's crazy about this? Mark Ingram plays probably behind the best offensive line in an offense that runs the ball the most. They ran the ball. They had 37 carries per game last year. 37. Mark Ingram got the ball in the red zone 46 times. J.K. Dobbins, next man up. He is a Mark Ingram clone. He's not a different guy. He's not it's not like a 1A, 1B. That's not this thing. This is going to be his heir apparent when his contract is up. He's a guy to learn behind Ingram. Everyone thinks he's just going to steal the job, right? So the first 5 weeks of the season, Cleveland, Houston, Kansas City, Washington, Cincinnati, all bottom 10 teams against the run last year. All of them. Ingram's going it's around the same time as David Montgomery, Jorge, David Johnson, I want Ingram ahead of both of those guys, just because of the offense that he's in, the opportunities that are going to be there for him, and that soft beginning schedule, so he can just put J.K. Dobbins to bed real fast in your leagues.
I think Ingram is going to be the lead dog. I'll give you that. However, the moment he has one bad game, it can be anyone's. And I mean, you guys know the guy I'm going to be talking about.
I know.
Gus
I
Edwards.
didn't even mention Gus Edwards.
It's
Did you see
Gus
the
Edwards,
Did you see
right?
the fake Schefter tweet today?
No.
No, I
There's
didn't
a
see
fake
it.
Schefter tweet that the Jaguars traded for Gus Edwards for
I
their,
didn't know.
who's a defensive
jeez.
lineman that they can't get rid of. How do you say that guy's name? I don't even know. But you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, Ngakoue. Yeah. That they made the trade. That
Well,
fake Adam Schefter.
Gus Edwards, the guy who, out of all running backs, was the second highest yards per carry.
Any chance you can get, David. You are Mr. Gus Edwards.
I
man.
love Gus Edwards. The Gus bus. Toot. I'm all of,
David, who else had who was right there with him in yards per carry was Devin Singletary. How do you feel about Devin Singletary?
He was. I'm not a big fan of Devin Singletary.
Yeah.
We've explained that before.
Yeah.
However, all I'm saying, well, that's a conversation for another day. But it's Mark Ingram's to lose. I do believe if Mark Ingram performs consistently, that is his number one job. If he has a couple of games where he has some down games, some low yards per carry, J.K. Dobbins, Justice Hill, Gus Edwards, hell, Lamar Jackson's coming in to steal those yards.
Team carry.
Oh, here we
I'm
go.
gonna say
Geez.
one thing about Mark Ingram real quick. Not fantasy relevant at all, but locker room presence matters.
Yeah.
And
Best friends. They were
Mark
inseparable.
Ingram
man.
that he has a strong hold on that locker room. You can just tell by his interviews and stuff. Not fantasy relevant, but it's probably his job just from that reason alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as far as the rest of the running backs go, obviously we have a who's who of backups, the Benny Snells, the Anthony McFarlands, last year's darling Justice Hill, a bunch of nothing. But I will tell you there's a specific position in the AFC North that is filled with low end. I say low end. I say later round targets, and that's wide receiver. And I want to know a little bit more about them. David, I believe you might know more than I do.
Well, where do we want to start? Which team?
You tell me. You start. It's your show, my friend.
Well, this is one guy who I'm super excited about. Who you can get probably in the 6th round, going 68th overall, and he's lean, he's mean, he's AJ Green. Yeah, this guy in 6 out of 8 years, he had at least 13 games, had 1,041 to 1,350 yards, between 8 to 11 touchdowns every year. He is the same age or maybe a year older than Julio Jones. If this guy can stay healthy, he's a number one wide receiver. Now, is he going to be Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams? Absolutely not. But can he be a mid to high level wide receiver one? I still believe he's got that talent. He's just got to stay healthy. He's going around the same level as his teammate Tyler Boyd, who, yes, he did okay last year, 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns. But they're going in the same spot, right? He had the 7th most targets out of all wide receivers. He proved, in my opinion, that he is not up to the number one wide receiver position. If you're getting the 7th most targets, I expect way more than that. He did okay. He fared okay, but he showed he's no AJ Green. AJ Green's a guy who can just create separation. He clearly is that number one guy. So in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow there, I believe in AJ Green this year.
Also, 2 days ago, AJ Green already leaving practice with a hand.
I know. I was waiting for someone to throw that in.
He's missed 29 of 64 games.
But every year he's played at least 13. He's had over 1,000. So
okay,
give him 13 games. That's all he needs.
I've almost hosted the show every time that we've been on the air too. But doesn't mean
you got me there.
No, but still, I know what you're saying. AJ Green, he can be a league winner at where he's going.
But he's not your number one wide receiver. You're getting him in the 6th, maybe 7th to 8th round. So if you got him, worst case is your flex. Let's say you go running back, tight end. You're probably getting a DJ Chark. Maybe another running back or wide receiver. He's your 3rd or 4th wide receiver off the board. So you're okay with AJ Green sitting in your flex. And if you make a mistake on your 6th or 7th round, it's not a deal killer.
Yeah.
So I think he's worth the risk. Yes, he comes with an injury risk, but the upside there is very high with AJ Green.
How about the Pittsburgh wide receivers, David? Tell me which guy you want. Do you want to invest in Juju? You think there's a bounce back coming, or are you a believer in Deontay Johnson? Who's going to catch the ball there?
There's always this handful of guys that just get this hype for no reason. And I'm trying to go through to go, why is everyone excited about Deontay Johnson? Last year, he got 59 catches, 680 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Meh. Yeah, where's this stuff about, this guy, he's going to be wide receiver 1, you can get in the 10th, 11th round. I mean, no. I mean, there's so many guys who outperformed him last year. He had the opportunity to be in number 1 wide receiver. Juju played, I believe, was only 10 games last year. I forgot the exact number of games he played, but he was playing hurt all year long. He had the opportunity to really take over that role, but he proved that he couldn't do it. When Juju came back on, even not full health, he was the X-receiver. That's why I do believe in Juju, the guy who, yes, he had a monster performance a couple of years ago, 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns. I think he comes back to that form. He's still very young. What is he, 22, 23 years old? Yeah. Juju has that quality. Plus, he's got his boy, Big Ben, coming back. Big Ben loves Juju, so those two are they're gonna make some sweet magic. I'm looking forward to it.
Is the question that I think that there's more divisiveness over is Hollywood Brown a legit number 1, or is he just a compliment to Mark Andrews?
He's the number 2 receiver on his team, on a team that has about 74 running backs.
That's true.
I'm not
one of which is Gus Edwards, and he's going to go into Gus Edwards talk. So.
Enough Gus. People probably hate to call about Gus, but no, I mean, he's a great talent. I get that, but last year Lamar Jackson, being the amazing talent he was, threw for just over 3,000 yards, right? And of those yards, 20% of yards and touchdowns went to Mark Andrews, meaning that Mark Andrews is the number 1 guy. Last year, Hollywood, he did okay. 584 yards. The touchdowns were there. 7 touchdowns. Very impressive, meaning that he's efficient. He's great in the red zone. But is that wide receiver 1 material? I don't know, man. That's just I just can't see him taking over Mark Andrews, and I can't see that team all of a sudden not being a run-first team. So I think he's going to improve on last year. Yes, he's put on 25-odd pounds. I forget what exactly it is. I do believe he will improve. But, maybe he'll get close to 1,000 yards, maybe 10 touchdowns. But I don't know if we got wide receiver 1 out of that. He's high-end wide receiver 2 that may sneak into wide receiver 1. But it's just I can't see him being a real threat.
Right. But you talked about the guy who is number 1 on that team, and that's Mark Andrews. And, the AFC North might not be littered with spectacular tight end options. Mark Andrews obviously is the headliner of them all. But, Todd, how's it looking with the tight ends there? Any that you're really, thinking might actually surprise us?
Surprise us?
Versus their ADP.
I don't know if in this division any of them are going to surprise us. I think what you're getting from Eric Ebron. I think you know what you're getting from Mark Andrews. I'll start with Hooper, because maybe that might be the one surprise. I can start with the good. He's the number 11 tight end, 91 overall.
And answer that.
7 games over 50 yards last season. He's on a new team, though. So that's where you have to kind of take that into account. He's had back-to-back seasons with over 70 catches and over 500 yards in 3 straight seasons. So he could produce. When you're talking 500 yards, 70 catches from a tight end, you're looking at a top 15 tight end for sure.
Yeah.
The Browns also didn't have a tight end. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, but just the thing to think about with tight ends. Yeah. But just the thing to think about with tight ends, right? You don't want the guy who's 4 for 35. You know what I mean? You don't want a 4-catch, 35-yard tight end every week. What you want to have is a tight end who can catch a ball in the end zone. And Hooper has been one of those guys throughout his career, right?
He has been one of those guys. But the one thing that just kind of gets me is I look at how the tight ends were used in last year. They only had no tight end had more than 15 catches. So I know it's a new head coach and all that, but I don't know. Austin Hooper.
But they're
I
going to
just feel
throw
like-
less. I mean, they're going to throw
Yeah,
less.
I just feel like Austin Hooper might be more just a product of Matt Ryan.
Let me be the pessimist of the group here, right? If Baker Mayfield continues his slump and Case Keenum is the starter, do we have more faith in the receivers / tight ends there?
No.
I'll answer that really quickly. No. As someone who's watched Case Keenum play football.
Hey, he did pull
I have too,
Terry
unfortunately.
McLaurin last year when Case Keenum was on. I was very excited about Case Keenum rather than Dwayne Haskins compared to Dwayne Haskins. But yeah, that's it's not really that hard. Anyone can be better than Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah. Aaron actually just mentioned though that he doesn't want the tight end that goes 4 for 35. There's actually a tight end that I can talk about right now that had 13 touchdowns in 2018.
Yes.
And that
now we're
would be
talking
Eric
tight end,
Ebron.
man. Now we're talking tight ends.
Let's just hop into Eric Ebron. He's only played a full season twice in 6 years.
Great point, Josiah.
That's the downfall.
Great point.
Exactly.
And I was looking into half-point PPR since 2013. Pittsburgh's produced 2 top 25 tight ends.
Oh.
So that
Very good.
that's with Big Ben throwing the rock, for the most part of those
Again,
years.
Vance McDonald, 3 catches,
Yeah.
61 yards. Boo. Give me Eric Ebron, 5 for 19 yards and 2 touchdowns. Because he's going to outscore Vance McDonald.
Yeah.
And he's had 50 more catches in 3 last 4 years. So, he can still get his catches in.
Right. And so, but that takes me back to, a question that, Michael Bauer, who, if you guys happen to listen to our Fourth and Frames podcast, has been joining us Mike is one of the greatest people possible. Asks a great question. Is Mark Andrews tight end 1? I guess the question then is, can he be the tight end 1?
The tight end 1?
And I'm going to say
he obviously is a tight end 1.
Correct. That goes without saying. So I'm going to assume, speaking for him, that he's saying, can he be or will he be, or that might be a statement that he is the tight end 1. Is the volume there in Baltimore enough to sustain over a Kittle or Kelsey? And the answer in my opinion, is no. But I'll let you guys answer since you're my panel.
I think you can.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Kittle is an amazing talent, but the number 1 wide receiver now is Brandon Ayuk, a guy who's, we're iffy about to begin with. Kittle is going to get all the coverage, absolutely all the coverage. So yes, he'll do well. I absolutely agree. I think he's still going to put 1,000 yards, but I don't know if he's going to really be able to get that much separation when you're getting double covered every single game. Kelsey's a different situation.
That's an interesting angle. Yeah, that's interesting.
Debo's no walkover, though.
No, they're not.
But he's also probably not going to play for the first 4 or 5 games. Yeah, and even if he does come back, he's not coming in 100% healthy.
So let's say that you pass on Kittle and Kelsey, and you think that he is Andrews is worthy of the number 1 spot. Where he's going right now.
Has anyone done that? If you're listening and you've taken Mark Andrews over Kittle or Kelsey, I got a league I want you to play in. No,
but if your projections have him that high, the question is where he's going, which is around DJ Moore. It's pick 35 overall. So at the end of the beginning of the third round, or the end of the third round, is that a spot that you're willing to take him, or are you waiting for tight ends? Maybe not the Eric Ebrons, the Njokus in the AFC North, but some of the later ones, the Jorge favorite Mike Gesicki's of the world.
No, I want Andrews, because after Andrews is like the cliff, and I don't want to be on the other side of that cliff in most leagues, especially in my home leagues, which I know is like what a lot of people are getting ready for now. These are not expert leagues. These are not, super contests, big old tournaments. Best balls. This is like your 10-team, 8-team, maybe 12-team home leagues.
Yeah.
You need to get don't let the tight ends pass you by, because otherwise you'll be staring, I swear, at 3 for 28, 10 of your 16 games this year, 10 of your 14.
Yeah, and one thing I want to say about Mark Andrews, that y'all know I'm a big slot guy. The way that Ravens use the slot.
Pennies or dollars? What do you put in the slots? Pennies?
Oh, I put it all in the slot. But
that was too easy.
698 of his 852 yards last year came from the slot.
He just said I put it all in the slot. Jorge's going to black us out here.
I know. We're getting the pull.
Yeah, he saw 14 more targets from the slot than any other tight end. The Ravens almost went for over 1,000 yards from the side end, just from the tight end alone. The Eagles were second, and they didn't even hit 650 yards from the slot from tight end. So he gets used a lot from the slot. I think it has a lot to do with that play action stuff and just how they line him up. But
didn't Mark Ingram? I mean, that play action sets up everything. Play action sets up Mark Ingram for catching 6 receiving touchdowns last year. I mean, and that was coming from who? From Lamar Jackson. So if we're going to talk about quarterbacks in the AFC North, Lamar Jackson obviously headlines the list of everybody. His current ADP right now is pick 23. We'll go around the horn. That might be copywritten. We'll go around the frames.
Yes.
And
around the frame
by frame. Frame by frame.
Ooh, frame by frame. And we're going to ask you, Lamar Jackson, and I want to make this clear. I want to make it a 6-point passing touchdown question since 4-point, I think, inflates him. Are you taking Lamar Jackson as current ADP? Aaron, go.
No.
David.
No. Just very quickly, we saw what happened when Aaron, we did a mock draft, and you drafted Lamar in the first. Was it you who drafted Lamar in the first round?
Ken or me, or I've done it. Ken's done it. It's a horrible thing. You just play catch up for the whole draft. You can't do that.
The whole draft is just constantly playing catch up. It's just too much. Sorry.
No, and that's exactly right. And I mean, a point. So Seth Robertson mentions that let's not forget also that Mark Andrews, jumping back on him, since that he is polarized. I mean, he has the legit ability. He did all that with just a barely, a 53% snap share.
Way to come with the stats, Seth. We appreciate
exactly.
that, man.
And I mean, adding on that, he only ran passing routes on 61% of those snaps. So it's not even that he played 53%. He was running routes on all of them, only on 61% of those. So, I mean, you have a guy that if he gets an 80 to 90% snap share, and without Hayden Hurst, that's obvious that he should have that. And if he runs more routes, that's going to be great. That might help Lamar Jackson. The question, Todd, I haven't got to you yet. Are you taking Lamar Jackson at pick 23?
I don't draft quarterbacks early, but I will not lie. There is this one super flex league I played in. I took Lamar, fell to me like 1-8, I think.
That's
home league.
Perfect.
Home league.
And it might be one.
Superflex 8's great.
Yeah.
But home league might be, and that might be my favorite draft I made. But other than that,
home league.
Yeah,
home league. No.
Yeah, home league. I'm not taking Lamar. I don't draft quarterbacks early. Just let me take him late. I mean, you see the drop off from the top couple. Obviously, are the best in fantasy, but after that.
You're not getting him again. You're not getting him in the 18th round again this year. So Lamar was amazing. He was the highest scoring fantasy player in every single format last year. What a true talent, an awesome fantasy asset. But you also got him in the 15th round. You picked him up on waivers. Like you don't get that this year. You got to pay your first round or second round pick. You cannot pay that for a quarterback.
And I'm the type of fantasy player. I think I can get 20 points from my quarterback any given week.
Yes.
Just give me some streamers. I could stream it.
Yeah. So, David, here's a question then. Todd's talking about these late round quarterbacks that can put up that points. In the AFC North, if you have your choice between Baker Mayfield and Joe Burrow, are either one of those guys number one versus their ADP worth taking? Number two, are either capable of projecting into that QB1 conversation?
12-team league, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Sure.
It's not, but a guy that I'm sure you're going to mention next to, I think is one of the biggest steals who I'm targeting, is Big Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's been consistent year in, year out. He's got an amazing offensive line, and you're getting him for virtually free. I mean, when have we been able to get Ben Roethlisberger in? Is he going in the 13th round in a 12-team league?
Yeah, roughly. Pick 131.
Number 18.
He's being surrounded by players he's being surrounded by the New England Patriots defense. At that point, you can either wait on your quarterback and get Roethlisberger as your one, or you take New England's defense, which, I know I got some New England fans.
You're not
on
taking
the show.
New England's defense. Spoiler alert. We're not letting you take New
garbage.
Yeah.
That's for our New England fans. Sorry.
Why are you going to do me like that, man?
Because you're David number two. We couldn't book David number one. We have to get what we get.
But no, you're right. I mean, at that point, people are picking kickers and defenses. If you go heavy with running back and wide receivers and what
Four-eyed
have you,
fans are not picking kickers and defenses.
Yeah, they might be because Jorge loves some Greg Zerline.
I think
Leg.
He
Listen,
does
kickers
love
and-
some Legatron.
kickers and defense, I'm all for. Play the fantasy format that is fun and the one you want to play, and don't listen to anybody else. I'm all for that.
Mhm.
But if you're playing in a kicker and defense league, second and third to last rounds, get one round ahead of everybody else. That's all you need to know about kickers
they
and
can
defense.
add some excitement to the game. I remember there was a while ago I was playing with Jake Elliott. I needed 16 points, and they finally on the horn. I was at 14 points. He was 30 yards out, and he just boom hit the upright. I lost.
He hit
by-
the upright.
Oh, it's the worst, man. It was the worst. I was so angry. I
Ban
remember that-
kickers. Ban
that
kickers.
night, my
So
wife thought
before, no, your wife got
my wife got so angry. Like, what's wrong, David? Are you upset about something at work? I'm like, no. I didn't have a heart to tell her that my kicker couldn't get a field goal, and I lost the week because of it.
So if we're
Yeah.
gonna wrap up, I got a question for everybody. As far as the AFC standings go, who's winning the AFC North? Aaron?
Obvious.
Oh, come on. It's the Ravens.
Okay. Is there a chance? I'll get past that. I'm sorry. That is obvious. Who finishes second? That might be the more difficult question.
The Steelers.
Yeah.
I think the Browns might surprise. It'll be close between the Browns and the Steelers, but it's not even close that the Ravens are going to run away with it.
Yeah, the
If,
Ravens are so much better. 6-0 in the division, and they're gonna win probably 11 games. They're a lock for 11 wins.
If they win the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be shocked.
I would not either. Their defense got
If
better.
Big Ben is on the field, the Steelers could actually put on a show, but we'll see.
I think it's going to be a fun. Obviously, we have Steelers. That's Jake Tom. He doesn't want anybody but New England. You and him, David, will be best of friends with your New England. When you come to KC and we go see that game, Jake will come along, I promise, and he'll split the ticket with you, and you guys can both cry in each other's arms when the Chiefs win. But that I can't go off anymore, guys. Thank you so much. The stress is off my shoulders. The first episode.
Nate, you did a fine job.
Yeah,
man.
you did a
very
great
much.
job, man.
Truly,
Excellent.
truly.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
You forgot to mention that they should go to fantasyandframes.com. That's where they can read all of our articles. This week
Yes.
is division week. Every single day, Jorge is pounding Twitter with each division by division. I think today was the NFC South, if I'm caught up. Just like pounding out articles everywhere, and make sure you catch up with everything there. And of course, we'll be keeping you up to date with the latest and injuries and all that stuff, and who you need to draft in your home league so you can win. So
Absolutely. So for Aaron, Todd, David, I'm Nate. Thank you everybody for watching.
cheers.
Cheers, guys.
It was fun.